You've seen it a million times, right? Those massive ships piled high with colorful shipping containers. That's the image of global trade. But what about all the stuff that, well, doesn't fit in a box? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the hidden world of non-containerized shipping. I mean, really think about it. How do you ship a massive wind turbine blade across an ocean? Or a literal mountain of grain? You're not going to stuff that into a standard container. No way. The answer lies in a totally different and honestly much older way of moving things by sea. And this is its name: break, bulk, and general cargo. The name actually comes from an old school phrase, breaking bulk, which is the exact moment you start to unload a ship's cargo. We're talking about goods that have to be loaded one piece, one sling, one scoop at a time. This is how shipping started, and it's still how the fundamental building blocks of our entire world get from point A to point B. So when one of these giant vessels pulls into port, it's not just a parking job. A full-blown, highly coordinated performance kicks off. Seriously, it's less like a factory and more like a carefully choreographed symphony. Every single person and every machine has a very specific role to play. The whole thing is all about precision. First, the ship has to berth, which is an incredibly delicate maneuver for something that can be longer than a few football fields. Once it's docked, massive mooring lines, thicker than your arm, are used to lash it to the pier. Only then do they open the giant hatches, revealing these cavernous cargo holds. And even then, they're inspected to make sure everything is good to go for the main event, the unloading. And you've got this whole cast of characters making it happen, all working together. The shipping agent, they're like the mission controller, handling all the info and paperwork. The port authority is the air traffic control for the harbor. The stevedores are the real specialists, the pros who physically move the cargo. Then you've got the tally man, keeping an exact count of every single thing. And the surveyor is like the independent referee, making sure the cargo's quantity and condition are exactly as stated. If just one of these people is out of sync, the whole dance can grind to a halt. Okay, so the ship is secure, the team is ready, but the cargo doesn't just get dumped onto the dock. Nope, it has a few different paths it can take, and it all depends on what it is and where it's going next. So there are two main ways this goes down. The first is called direct pickup, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. A crane lifts the cargo straight out of the ship and plops it right onto a waiting truck. It's super fast, super efficient, perfect for things that need to get moving right away. The other path is the warehouse operation. Here, the cargo gets moved from the ship into a port warehouse. This is for goods that need to be stored for a bit, maybe sorted, before they continue their journey. And then there's a third, kind of specialized option, barge transfer. In ports that are connected to big river networks, the cargo can be moved straight from the giant ocean vessel onto smaller barges. These barges then carry it inland. It's a huge part of the logistics chain in many places around the world. Okay, now this brings us to a really, really clever piece of science. So picture this. A ship is carrying, say, 50,000 tons of iron ore. How do you know it's exactly 50,000 tons? You can't just put the ship on a giant scale, right? So how in the world do you weigh all that cargo accurately? Well, the answer is just brilliant. It doesn't involve a scale at all. Instead, it relies on a principle that a guy named Archimedes figured out over 2,000 years ago. It's all about how much water the ship is pushing out of the way. It's called a draft survey. Now, a ship's draft is just a fancy word for how deep it sits in the water. By measuring that, you can figure out the total weight of the ship and everything on it. And this method, it's the gold standard for weighing bulk cargo. It's absolutely essential for making sure international trade is fair and everyone gets what they paid for. Here's how it works in 4 simple steps. First, the surveyor measures the ship's initial draft before anything is loaded. Second, they load up all the cargo. Third, the surveyor comes back and measures the final draft. Now the difference tells you the total weight that was added to the ship. But, and here's the genius part, they then have to do all these calculations to subtract the weight of everything else that's not cargo, like fuel, ballast water, even the crew's drinking water, to get the final certified weight of just the goods. It's this amazing mix of old-school physics and meticulous accounting. Now, moving all this physical cargo around is only half the story. Just as critical is the invisible flow of information, all the paperwork and procedures that make sure everything runs smoothly, legally, and most importantly, safely. This paper trail is just as crucial as the cargo itself. You've got the import manifest, which lists everything on board. The stowage plan is basically a treasure map created by the ship's chief officer, showing exactly where every item is stored, which is critical for the ship's stability. The statement of facts is a detailed diary of everything that happened while the ship was in port. And finally, you have the surveyor's report, which makes the weight from that draft survey official. And to keep this all from becoming a bureaucratic nightmare, a lot of ports use what's called a one-ship, one-case system. It's a simple idea, really. It just means that each ship's visit, from the moment it arrives to the moment it leaves, is treated as one single administrative file. It's a small thing that makes a huge difference in efficiency. And you better believe that underpinning all of this is a massive focus on safety. Everything is run according to strict standard operating procedures. The ship's chief officer has this huge responsibility, not just for planning the stowage to keep the ship from tipping over at sea, but also for personally signing off on the safety of every single crane and piece of equipment used. There is absolutely zero room for error. So, why does all of this matter to you? Well, this whole complicated, behind-the-scenes dance of people, machines, and paperwork, it's the very first link in the supply chain for the raw materials that literally build the world around us. And just to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, let's look at Taiwan. The port of Kaohsiung, just one port, handles a mind-blowing 67%. That's over 2/3 of the entire country's breakbulk cargo. It's this massive, concentrated hub of activity, a vital artery pumping life into the region's economy. So yeah, the shipping containers get all the fame, but it's this invisible ballet that brings us the steel for our cities, the grain for our bread, and the heavy machinery for our factories. It is a complex, deeply important, and often overlooked part of the global engine. So the next time you're near the coast and you see one of those colossal ships way out on the horizon, maybe you won't just see a ship. Maybe now you'll see the surveyor carefully measuring the draft. You'll see the stevedores executing a perfect lift. You'll see the chief officer double-checking that intricate stowage plan. You'll see the hidden, complex world that truly keeps our world moving.